YouTube channel, Making It in Austria. And today I have a great pleasure to introduce you to our next guest, Leyrer. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. Welcome, May, to our channel. Thank you for joining us on this Friday morning, sunny Friday morning here from Vienna.
Thank you so much for having me.
May, as I ask all of my guests, I would like you to give a short introduction of what you do, where is your passion, what are your current projects that you're working on, and then we take it from there.
Happy to do it. I'm actually born and raised in Estonia. At the age of 18, I literally took my suitcase and didn't have financing, but I said, I want to get my education from US. So this you probably will also hear in my English. I spent the next 10 years in New York area, getting my education and getting my first career going. From thereafter, I've actually spent my first part of the career, which is the first 20 years in banking, retail, as well as a lot to do with innovations and startups. Mm-hmm. And now I'm actually right now in the transition into my next 20, 30 years of my career, and have decided to continue as a coach, because this has been something that has always driven me also as an executive, as I had a successful global executive career, helping to turn around companies and to build different strategies and also to execute them. Mm-hmm. Then in course of this work, what always was for me most fascinating is when people came to my office and said, I need your help. And then I loved it when to listen, and people always came to me and they always trusted me. And now I finally realized that has been my calling already for a long time, to listen to people and to coach them. And that's why I'm right now in the transition of launching my own company, coaching company. And actually a book is coming out too in a few months. It's currently by the editor. So for all the managers and politicians and leaders, I have developed my own thinking model, mm-hmm. which helps to actually make decisions and to communicate them clearly so that you really get the buy-in from the audience. Oh. And this book is coming out in a few months. So this is what I've been now working on. And one of my key projects right now is really to get going with the coaching side. And I will also go in a few weeks, I will go back to school again after having already 4 or 5 degrees. I can't even keep count of them. But I will go back to school for coaching, because at the end of the day, one day I want to really do also life coaching. I'm starting as a business coach, but in 5 years or so, I really want to do also life coaching and help not only business people, but all people.
So it seems, May, that your 2020 or maybe year before was busy. So you've been, really using the time to start your business, to write the book, because I think that's a lot of time, right? It's time consuming, I would say.
Yes, it is. Actually, I finished my last turnaround project in end of May last year, mm-hmm. saving a stock listed company from bankruptcy. And that, of course, as you can imagine, I did it in 14 months, which means it took all of my energy. And then from there on, I actually went to sabbatical. From June last year, I took time off to just recover, because the company was really big and there was a lot to do to save it. Was successful. The stock of the company rose to over 200% last year.
Wow.
So I can consider my work well done. And yeah, as of actually, then as of summer, I started writing the book and preparing for the launch of my own business.
Wow. Real, true power woman, I would say, May, if I may. She is as one sense is a true power woman. You got it all. So I'm really proud that both of us are that we found the ways to meet each other, and at least through the VW Executive Academy, so as part of our alumni. And so really proud of having such powerful women within our community that can that are true role models for me and for all the women that are striving to have career, life, and at some point when you decide to move from one industry to another, it's not like, wow, it's like you take it from there and you just continue.
That is true. I think the one thing that I can always say has been my big benefit is I've always had a very strong will. That helps a lot.
The Estonian.
Yeah, it helps to overcome the fears, because it's really not easy.
Yes.
It would be so much easier to remain in the executive world and take another executive job, but that would not make me as happy.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. Thank you, May, for sharing. Coming back to Austria, since you mentioned Estonia, US.
Yeah, I've also been in Denmark. Now I'm in Austria.
So how is it for you in Austria? So how did you find your way to Austria?
I found my way to Austria actually through school. As in 2012, I decided to go and get a global executive MBA, and I decided to do it at VU, so Wirtschaftsuniversität Wien. And the reason why I decided for the school was actually at that point wasn't that much to do with Austria. It was actually to do with the quality of the education. But that was the best decisions that I've made, because it introduced me to Austria. Mm-hmm. And I know it might sound a bit weird, but I do have to say I feel myself home after being 7 different countries, 3 continents, having been through the world and have always looked for where is my home. Yeah. And yes, born and raised in Estonia, I have to admit, Estonia is a nice place, and you always, go back home, but really home, I feel myself here. And it's as funny as it sounds, that's what it is. And that's how I came to Austria, through school. And then I started, actually, at the time, I also had my own consultancy business. I had some customers in Austria, so I started working with them. Mm-hmm. And this is what really made difference. And why Austria for me? Mm-hmm. Austria is one of them, actually, in my experience, the only country where, because I haven't been in all the over 200 countries, I've only been in 7 countries where I've lived and studied and had really a deeper exposure. From all of these countries, Austria is the only country where word is still honored. Mm. And for me, as a person who's very honest always, and really wants, this old world values where, you didn't have to have a signed contract to do business. Mm-hmm. As long as you had shaken hand with somebody, it stays. And Austria is the place where it really is so.
Wow.
There still is countries in the world where you can look in the eye of a potential business partner and make a deal over a dinner table. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to have your lawyer next to you to immediately sign up a paper and then have a signature on it. And this is, the honesty of the people here, the friendliness of the people here. It is fascinating.
May, this is completely new. This is the revelation. I think this Friday we have the revelation about Austria.
Maybe I've just been lucky with, being in the right environment and with the right people. But this is really, really my experience. As in every country, great. I'm sure here is also different business people. But yes. I've always had the pleasure of only meeting the honest people here.
That's really, really, really. Thank you for sharing that. That's. We had all different challenges and all the different experiences, but your experience is, I must say, compared to the others, different. And it might be as well. You are in a very different position. So the executive roles, the people that you deal with, you make business with, and you are very, very highly experienced, and you have seen a lot of the world. So you can really make that comparison, I would say, and that's really powerful. So that's a big plus for for Austria.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, in my perspective, absolutely, this is the biggest plus.
How is your German, May? So, because that's what people usually say, or struggle, or ask me when they want to move to Austria. So, like, if I don't speak the German, do I have any chance?
I would say you need to learn the language. You don't need to be perfect. Austrians are very friendly. They understand if you're not immediately perfect. But it doesn't matter in which country you are. If you really want to go and live in that country, you need to learn the language, because language is a big part of the culture. Mm-hmm. For me, how is my German? I'm still making mistakes. At home, we have German is a language at home that we speak every day with my husband and my son. Me and my son, we speak very many languages, as my son is fluent in Estonian, English, started school in Denmark at some point. So myself, I speak multiple languages. German is not the easiest language, but once you already speak 2 or 3 languages, then every other language is quite easy that comes. I still make grammatical mistakes, but whoever plans to come, I don't care in which country, my experience tells you the first thing you need to learn is the language. You don't need to speak it perfectly, but without speaking the language, you will never be part of that culture, truly part, and you will also not truly understand the culture. And you will create for yourself obstacles which are really unnecessary.
That's same for me. So when we moved here, I said I want to learn the language. That was not if, then, and when, and maybe later in 3 years or 5 years. It was immediately back then, because as you said, it's you being part of the society as well, and knowing one more language, it's opening many more doors for you actually, and it doesn't have to be perfect, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And in Austria, it's also very important to, if you go, for instance, in a very small country, Austria is also not the biggest, but it's still 8 times bigger than Estonia from where I come from, you know. In Estonia, you might get along with English a lot better in a business world than you do in Austria, because at the end of the day, German language is one of the major languages in the world. So this is something you need to bear in mind as well. And of course, to truly do the business here, you need to speak the language. Otherwise, you will be cutting yourself off from everything else. And also, when it comes to job interviews, and you don't need to be perfect with your German, but to go on a job interview and not speak any German at all, I would not recommend that.
That's true. That's really true. And I remember I came here with B1, so I knowledge, and it was really it was beneficial for me a lot, because as you said, everything is in German. So when I went, for instance, to look for an apartment, all the documents have been in German. So of course I asked my friends and people that I know, okay, can you help me out and look this through together with me? Or if you go for an insurance, or if you go into the hospital, or if you go any other places, a little bit of German, it's really something. It's a big plus, and it saves you so much headache if you come with a little bit, just, you know, saying hi, goodbye, and I'm looking for this.
Yeah. In the beginning, it's okay to have a little, but if you really plan to come to Austria and stay here, then you need to achieve the fluency. I mean, it can be a second language fluency. I'm not talking about the mother tongue fluency, but you definitely have to.
I like to talk with all of my guests as well about networking. As you know, you yourself, together we are in the Female Leaders Network. You're very, very active part of the very executive academy where you did your MBA, and I'm sure you have many other networks as well. So tell us a little bit how networking has been beneficial throughout your career, because you lived in many countries, and for your career, and as well privately. So how do you nurture your networks and relationships?
Networking is one of the keys, actually, especially when you go to a new country. To get started in the country, you need to immediately start building your network. I am maybe not the perfect example. Yeah, I do have a great network, and big network, global network. But this has a lot to do with, once you're an executive and you have an executive background, then in my network, I wouldn't be able to tell the stories of every single person in this network, because the network is in thousands. I have not maybe been the best in terms of being very, very close with my network. As myself, I'm also maybe a bit more introverted as extroverted. Once people ask, I'm very honest, open, I share, but I'm not the one who's going to go and make the first step. And this is something where I have had to develop myself a lot. And whoever goes and comes to Austria or wherever, in Austria, it's really easy to do it because people are so friendly. I mean, if I compare, for instance, I've also been in US, there people are also friendly, but there it's a bit of the fake friendliness. in Austria, they are seriously friendly, like sincerely friendly, not only, putting up the friendly face. And compared, for instance, to some other countries, here is really perfect place if you are somebody who has a bit of a shell with networking. You like to network online, or you don't want to go and make the first step. Then here it's the perfect place to try it, because you always get a friendly response, and I mean nothing bad can happen. There are cultures where you don't get such a friendly response if you try to reach out, and those I have also experienced. So network is very crucial in anything you do in today's world, and has to do actually nothing with today's world. It's always been important, and especially if you go to the new country. So
yeah, for me, for instance, the MBA network, so our network that we are part of, it has been crucial for especially for the DACH region. For instance, when I moved here from Bosnia, so then I within a year I moved into the global role, and as you said, I had people all over the world, so very very international network. And then at some point I realized, okay, I'm really missing the network here in Austria, because at that point we have decided, okay, we are going to stay in Austria, we're going to live here. So and then I was like, what is the best way to build up a network with people like I want to spend time with, not like randomly going to different events and then hope that at the end of the day I have one or the other contact, but what are the best probabilities, best chances to go, and where do I find these people, like business professionals, like-minded people who are serious about career, ambitious, and so on. And then MBA was of course always on my list. I always wanted to do an MBA, and then somehow it came really together with the VU, because as you know yourself, we have around 50% of our alumni that is from this region, and that's so amazing. That's really investment in your future. I have some people that I talk not just about business, but about as well what are the best places, cool places for vacation. You develop kind of friendship as well, and once you're part of the network, if you give a little bit of yourself, as you said, people come to you and they ask you like, oh, how about this, or do you know someone to recommend, and so on. If you give a little bit of your time, then this can be really, really good for you in a long term.
Absolutely, fully agree. And the best network actually for me also in DACH region, I've built it more or less through Executive Academy. So really school is a great way to start, and in the alumni clubs is a super way to start with your network. But you need to also be yourself a bit active. You cannot just go on the events and not talk with anybody and then expect that you will grow your network. So you really need to participate. You need to go on the events. I mean, right now it's online events, but also online events. At least VU Executive Academy, they do it really greatly. They always give a networking opportunity also on the online events. Yeah.
Yes.
You do your breakout sessions, and you get to know a few new people. So.
Yes, absolutely. So use every opportunity. I always say build it before you need it. So don't, the worst you can do is like, I'm in this position and I don't care and I don't have time. I don't have time to network, because that can, for me, it was like opener to many, many business opportunities in my roles where I was at that point, as well that I was building the bridges and opening the doors for my future opportunities as well. So it's always, a little bit of investment today goes a kind of a long way, and it doesn't have to be something, changing the world. So sometimes it's just having a coffee or going and chatting and sharing different articles or contacts or interesting ideas and so on, just to get to know the other person better.
Unfortunately, Western world is a bit not so good at it. So when you go to, for instance, China, then the minute they are born, they start actually building and nurturing the network.
Wow.
And once they get to the point of being in a career world, they already have the network. What do the Westerners do? The Westerners start building it, you're already in the office, like, okay, who do I need to know to do this, and then you start building your network, which is wrong. You should actually start with it the minute you're born.
Is this something that you will write in your book, May? Or
no, actually, the book is about decision making. So this topic is not in the book. In the book, it's about how to make and communicate decisions. It's a handbook.
Okay.
But on this topic, I can maybe one day comes a new book.
Yes, you can talk about
My
that, because
first
it's
thought, no.
different. It's very, very different.
Very different.
And I hear that. So I hear that from many people, that it's very different. So should I be really, proactive? Can I ask directly? In some cultures, I can ask directly, and in some others, you have to go a little bit around, or someone needs to introduce you, and so on. So there's a lot of, everywhere, we look, there's a lot of this cultural aspect, no matter in business, that is so crucial, and sometimes can be a deal breaker if you don't understand, how people communicate in this country.
That is always a deal breaker. Having been in many different cultures, the first thing is to understand the culture. And to understand the culture, you need to understand the language. Without the language, you don't truly understand. I can bring a very quick example.
Yes.
In Denmark, when I was working and living in Denmark, for work, I never needed any Danish. That was all the work was done in English, because it was one of the Nordic's biggest banks across 15 markets, and I was working for the executive board there as a strategist. So everything was done in English, and but I still started learning also the language itself. And the minute I learned the language, I started understanding why some of the things in the beginning, or the behaviors of the people, seemed so funny to me, or a bit like, okay, why do they behave like this? Like, if they want like a sugar or something on the table, and they want you to give it, and they say, give me the sugar. In English you say, please, can you hand me? There is no word please in the language, so you need to understand it. Otherwise you think that, why are they all so impolite? But they are not impolite. They have learned English, but they in their own language don't have the word please. So it's quite natural that in English they might not use this word too often, because it's not existent in their own language. And then you think that people are rude, but no, it's part of the culture.
That's really, really, really cool. Where I come from, we are very direct. So in communication, very direct as well. And then in Austria, for me, is a little bit I indirect as well. In Sweden, where I spent most of my where I work over the last 5 years, it's more of consensus culture. Very much, we all
Sweden
sit.
is 100% consensus.
We sit and then we discuss, and there's one meeting, there's a follow-up, there's a third one, until
everybody agrees, and then comes a decision.
Yeah,
that's Sweden. I worked with Swedish also quite a lot when living in Denmark, because Sweden was one of the major markets for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and in my culture is like, what we think we just say, it just gets out there, and then you figure it out, and it's not personal. It's just
exactly. It's part of the culture.
It's part of the culture. May, before we wrap up, I want to ask you, like all of my guests, so what are you reading at the moment? What is something that you could recommend to our readers? Because your book is not out there yet, so we have to wait for 3 months.
Need to wait 2 months, hopefully in April. The goal is it will be out in April. But I will definitely then recommend in end of April or so to read the strategic storylining book.
I'm looking forward.
Thank you. But what am I reading right now is actually I'm reading Coach the Person, Not the Problem.
Wow.
And it's a really good book about how coaching actually should be, because when I also went into the coaching, when you go to study coaching somewhere, then they always say, oh, it's about asking questions. But I have never seen it this way. And then I always thought that, okay, am I now completely alone with my thoughts? Because for me, coaching is you fill different roles. You need to be a mirror, you need to be a challenger, you need to be a guide, you need to be a mentor sometimes. And then sometimes you need to be a coach that only asks the questions. So it's a combination of everything. And in this book, she's actually the writer herself was International Coach Federation president at some point, and she was also one of the founders of the International Coaching Federation. And she really describes that coaching should be more like I also see it, and not about only asking the questions. So for any leader, I definitely recommend reading the book. And it's not only for if you want to become a coach, but as a leader, you also need to coach your people.
Yes.
And she really covers a really good methodologies of how to do it, and gives a bit of wider perspective, because I never want to be a coach who only asks questions. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it's right. You need to ask questions, but sometimes you also need to give advice if
Yes.
this is the moment. You need to be in different roles.
I love those books where what you just said, the books that you find and they're like, wow, that's what I was thinking about. And it's not only in my head, it's not only in my head. There are other people somewhere in the world that are thinking the same. So I'm not the crazy person. So it's not something, it happens to me when I read the books from Simon Sinek. For some, so it's like, yeah, but this totally makes sense. I don't want to live in a world where it's just all about money and profit and gaining and who's going to who's the winner, and we are the winners, those are the losers, and so on and so forth. So it's sometimes really, refreshing to find something, not to have to fight with the world and people around you. So like, okay, there's someone who's thinking the same, and there are people who are reading that as well around the world.
Yeah. There is a lot of people, and I mean, since there is a lot of people in the world, a lot of the ideas that we have, somebody might have already written about them, but the question is, will you get to them or not?
Thank you, May, for this insightful conversation. I really, really enjoyed every second of it. And I cannot wait to read your book. And thank you once again for joining us on this Friday.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great pleasure, and thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for watching this. If you like the video, just like, comment, subscribe to the channel. So every week we bring new inspiring stories from people who made a career here in Austria. They're sharing their own experiences. And I will as well, in our comment section, I will link the LinkedIn details from May. So if you want to get in touch with May, please do so. And yeah, that's from me for today. Have a wonderful weekend and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.